Good evening, everyone. And Rob, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Babcock.
Here.
Mrs. Sweet.
Here.
Mr. Bear. Here. Mr. Whitaker.
Here.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
Mr. Hannah.
Here.
Council does have a quorum. Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And good evening, everyone. This is the regular session of the Enon Village Council. This is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. Any additions this evening to our agenda?
I have two, sir,
All right, Rob,
under new business.
new business,
And under committee reports, Parks Committee.
parks, new business, Rob, finance. All right, and let's go to the minutes of our November 28, 2023 meeting. And Mrs. Sweet, you did have one correction on page 3, and that was adjourned by Mr. Hannah,
Yes, sir. And second by Mr. Whitaker.
Mr. Whitaker. So if you guys want to add those in, and that's on page 3 under the adjournment, to your copies, and Rob, if you'd make sure that that correction gets changed, awesome. So with that change, with that addition, I'd entertain a motion in a second to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Sweet and seconded by Mr. Whitaker. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Abstain.
Okay.
Hannah.
Yes.
Oops, sorry, Rick. Those minutes are approved as, with the additions. And let's go into our financial report. And Rob, good evening. We'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Before I kick off on the numbers, I did get a couple questions about why we didn't have a bank reconciliation report available to you this evening. And the reason for that is that the state of Ohio and their UAN decided to roll out an upgrade last week that had to be installed before the end of the year. And it ended up having a glitch in it, so they are working on a patch at the moment.
No, a software glitch.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
So we are able to do transactions, but we are not able to close anything. So I have not been able to close the books on the month of November yet. But when I do, I will email that report out to you, and then the council that meets in January will have hopefully 2 reconciliations to approve at that time.
And that is a great reason, by the way. So,
Who issues software releases at the end of the fiscal year? I mean, come on.
And it had to be installed before we could close the year. So that was the reason it was done. So on to our reports. I'll go over some fund balances this evening as of the end of November. General fund sitting at $171,149.23. Our street fund is at $96,755.95. We are still carrying a negative balance of $80,000 in the federal grant. We will be making another payment when we approve a budget in January to keep whittling that down. We still have the ARPA funds that are sitting there at $131,121.75. $50 in the Enforcement Education Fund. Police Levy Fund sitting at $276,711.27. The special fund for the police department is at $7,337.34. The computer fund that we get for the mayor's court, there's a little bit on each of the cases that goes into that, $2,781.50, and we did have some money in that this year, and Christy was able to buy some computer stuff for the mayor's court before the end of the year, which was good. Water operating fund is at $284,152.60. Our contingency fund at $109,822.35. We've got a whopping $38.85 in unclaimed monies.
I think it's mine.
Okay. And so that, unless anyone has any questions, our appropriations are dwindling down. We've got, 19 days to make it with what we've got, and I think it will be okay. Part of my new business report or request at the end will be to move a little bit of money to make a debt service payment that we had.
and while we're on finances, if you could, why don't you just go ahead and roll that right into your financial report? It'll make it all nice and smooth and
The village has a loan with West Banco for the purchase of one of the police vehicles that we have. Payments are made twice a year, and the amount of $49,3026. There were not appropriations to make that payment. That had been paid out of the general fund, and there were no funds to do that. But there was excess in the police levy fund in the benefit line, so we were able to move the $49,3026 into a capital line to make that payment. Normally, I would be able to move money within a fund, but the reason I can't on this one is that there was no appropriation at the beginning of the year in that capital line at all. So I can't move something to a zero line without council approval. So
Sort of scooching monies again.
just scoot your money. But
Okay.
again, the net zero overall.
So I'll move that we move the 49,3026 out of insurance benefits to capital outlay.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Babcock,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
Okay, that request has been approved. And again, Rob, make sure that is documented in the minutes, please.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
And my other thing that I was going to bring up later is we need a resolution tonight setting the compensation for the mayor and the 2 council seats that were elected, because those have to be done before their terms start.
So it's for council and the mayor?
It's for the 2 council seats that were elected.
Okay.
You cannot change the compensation of an elected official within their term, so they have to be set before they start.
So if it's already been established, do we have to change anything then? Do we have to do it each year?
You have to do it each time a term starts.
Gotcha.
It can be, you can set it so that it, increases every year within that term, but it all has to be done before the term starts.
So I'm going to have to ask you, what do I make?
$7,000.
What is it?
7.
Okay.
I think the council seats are 4.
Four, right.
I don't know about any merit raises at this point. I'm not sure about any merit raises at this point. So,
Longevity pay.
What you going to give me? Check that figure. Yeah, the 7 did,
I'm pretty sure the mayor's is 8.
I think you're right. I
or
think
maybe
it's
84,
84. You're
85.
right. It's 84. It's $700 a month.
I mean, we go to 94 if you want. It doesn't matter to me.
That is at the discretion of someone else, sir.
Okay.
You're right. It is.
Good
It is. It is
response.
84.
84?
It's
Okay.
$700 a month.
So we have 84, and then for the council members is?
4,000.
4,000? Okay, so we need to do that as a resolution. Okay. All right, so first of all, we would need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule for that resolution, and that would be number, Kevin, do you happen to have numbers with you tonight?
I do not.
Okay, so we will define that, and we'll get that clear at the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Babcock, seconded by Mrs. Sweet, and call the roll, please.
Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
yes.
So now we'll need a motion and a second to approve that resolution establishing the wage for the mayor at $8,400 a year and the 2 council seats at $4,000 a year.
So moved.
Second.
And that was moved by Mrs. Sweet and seconded by Mr. Bear. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker.
I abstain.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
And that resolution does pass. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Rob.
You're welcome. And that ends my report, sir.
Okay, questions for our fiscal officer?
I do have one.
Heath.
The Axon payment, is that taken care of, or could we move some monies for that? They called and asked if we could get that by the end of the year, so I wasn't sure.
I do not have enough to cover that.
Okay,
And that will be, we can pay that in January. But
that'll work.
that would be a bigger issue to do that.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay.
As a point of order, on abstention, normally it has to have a remark about the reason for that, and I assume with Jeremy, because you're
Right.
involved with that.
Don't think
so-
it's probably proper to set my own pay.
Sounds good.
So that'll be the reason for it.
Thank you.
I think it was assumed, but good to hear it.
So Mike, what was the deal with the payment you were talking about?
Oh, it was just our fleet cameras. We just have a payment plan, and they had sent a bill in. Evidently, it wasn't put through at the beginning, but I'm sure they can wait till after the first of the year.
It's carried from November of '22.
The payment's been carried since November 22?
Yeah, we ordered them. I ordered them in November of '22, but they didn't. They were well. Actually, I take that back. I ordered them prior to that. They were supposed to install them fall '22. They didn't. They just recently installed them in '23. So I didn't start the payments because we didn't have the equipment.
Right.
I don't like to pay for stuff that I don't have yet. So at any rate,
You guys get it worked out. Thank you. Any other questions for our fiscal officer? Okay, thanks again, Rob.
Thank you.
Let's go into presentations. We have a representative here, MSP, going to give us a briefing. And Rick, Dave, who wants to give a little bit of background here, introduction? Dave?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
mind. I don't mind giving an introduction. MSP is out of Sharonville, Ohio. They are the ones that did our graphics and our fly-through for our pitch deck presentation. But in our research for a firm to do all kinds of things, but including the graphics that we would need for our pitch deck, MSP came to light. They provide cradle-to-grave services, all the kinds of things that we need. And I know that we are looking for, that kind of a firm. So I invited Mr. Brian Grome, representing MSP, to come up and give that pitch as to what their capabilities are and how that would benefit the village of Enon. So Brian, with that, go ahead, take it away, brother.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Again, my name is Brian Grimm. I'm with MSP Design. I want to first thank Dave for the introduction and thank you guys for letting us discuss what MSP can do for you, as well as for any current projects like the community park, as well as any future projects as well. When we were first contacted by Dave a few months ago, we were pleased to have the opportunity to reach up here, do some marketing graphics for you guys, and really create that what I would call the pretty picture to really sell the project. We can have the plan view like this and have a overall plan, but once you see the 3D graphics and stuff like that we can provide, then you can really sell the project to the public and sell it to the everyone else as well. I'd like to kind of give a little history about MSP, as well as just go over what we design aspects that we can provide, and then kind of end on Parks and Rec and discuss the park as well. MSP was actually started in 1856, so we've been around for a while. One fun fact I like to say is one of our first clients is Spring Grove Cemetery, and we had them in 1856, and I have 3 projects going with them to this day. So we like to, really pride ourselves to keep the relationship with each of our clients and just continue that on even 167 years later. We're a full-service design firm. We have anything, from architecture, engineering, interior design, LA, planning, and surveying. So we essentially can get a project up from, the ground up. We can do the zoning, do the actual, master plan document, do the construction documents, all the way to construction administration. So anything that you need to get a building, any site developed, zoning, we have been there, done that. We've been around for a while. This is a little list of our markets. I'm not going to read through them all, but we've done a vast majority of anything that you can think of between like Parks and Rec is kind of near and dear to my heart, but land development, large architectural buildings as well. I'm going to hit on a few just general ideas, or general design service that we include. So architecture. So for instance, we can provide anything from firehouse design, architectural services, to more on the Parks and Rec of, restroom facilities, concessions. So everything is done in-house. So we don't have to outsource anything. We have everything that you can think of, again, to just really get that project going. Next is civil engineering. So we do a lot of large-scale development and anything from, planning process to having these graphics here to getting everything approved by not only EPA but working with those agencies to get the project through that permitting stage. And we do a lot of work with ODOT as well. So anything that needs any roadways and light facilities, anything like that. So it's kind of a full service. The only major thing we don't hit on is major highways, which I don't foresee anything going through here at this point. So another newer item to our list is interior design. So just another implement we have added to our architecture department. And again, if we have any admin buildings or any sort of firehouses, that'd be something that we could utilize, and police stations as well. If you're, police stations in the budget. So, landscape architecture. So I'm our senior landscape architect and head of our department. So, it's really my bread and butter as far as Parks and Rec. We create anything from any amenity spaces, parks to church facilities to just splash pads, anything you can name. We're usually the first ones to really touch the project and really get the design started. And then we can send it off to our engineering and architecture team. And we're kind of the liaison between the zoning administration, the civil engineers, and the architects. So we're kind of the middle piece that brings everyone together and really puts a design aspect to the site, which leads me to the next part, and that's our master planning. So in my opinion, the master planning process is the most important. So what we would do is essentially create these graphics to show best location of amenities, best location of where a baseball field or a parking facility should go on a site. It's really the first step you need to take on any major projects. We do, again, Parks and Rec, but we also can do comprehensive plans for your community development and where to focus funds on, where to really, for land use plans and stuff like that. And we're currently doing one in Butler Township, just west of here. So we're doing their comprehensive plan to allocate funds for different areas of development. And I've, another project going on just west of there as well. So, we're not new to the Dayton market, to this area up here. So we travel everywhere. Surveying is kind of a last on the list, but it's very important. For your site, one thing that pops in my head is, the issue is with the floodway for your site. And we can essentially go out there and check the grades on that site to see if it actually truly is in a floodplain. Because, a lot of times they'll have just a GIS map. This is all based off of, it's not off of true grades. So there may be just one small area that we can take a look at. And we also do drone flyovers for essentially LiDAR. So it takes, we could do the whole site in 2 hours instead of 2 weeks for what you would do for a standard surveying crew. So again, we really can get a project all around, get everything from the initial survey, get all the zoning documents, all the surveys, and on through the whole process. So on to why we're here, Parks and Rec. And I was kind of discussing with Dave that this is it's my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing as a landscape architect, and it's near and dear to my heart. I have 2 kids, 7-year-old, 1-year-old. I'm either on a baseball field, a football field, soccer field, or a playground 5 days of the week, I feel like. So, I really take it to heart and love to just design these spaces for the kids to enjoy. And, it's a passion for myself. Again, recently we created your marketing piece for this, and we can create that 3D model of the park system, to get that good view of it, to not only see how everything works together. It's really hard to see from the ground up of what it actually looks like with those grades. Next is kind of like a park. Oh, if you could go back one second, that's all good. So a few major components for these parks that we create. A lot of them are you got your restroom facilities. You have concession stands here, like the one we did on the left that is on stilts, which may be a possibility for your future development. But this is where our architecture team comes into play. So they can design these spaces. They're all custom designed, built to incorporate shelters, restroom facilities, memorials, anything that you can think of or really want within a project. So one very popular item that I know is not within your scope at this time, but it's splash pads. We've done them. I currently have 4 of them going at one time right now. So it's something that everyone loves, all the kids love, and the parents can, we have a good seating spot and let their kids play for 2 hours and they'll be enjoyable. So it's something that's we've seen a lot of park spaces, so it might be a thought of something to incorporate within the park. And they're really, maintenance wise, it's not that bad. Price wise, you can work them into a budget, and we have a lot of representatives that we have great relationships with, so they work with us on price and get their their actual installers as well. So everything works out for the best. On to our sports fields. So we've done a lot of different designs of sports fields. We've done baseball, basketball, soccer, you name it. So we currently have a couple big ones going through some larger high schools in Cincinnati, and we're not new to it. We know what it incorporates, what pricing wise, what it entails between the stands, lighting, and also those unique experiences where we have to raise up an area, and how's that work with the rest of the site. And that's where the landscape architecture role comes into play, of really designing your space to make it work, and just make it a successful project. So again, here's your site. It's kind of one of the graphics that we created for the site. And looking from an outside perspective in, there's a lot of stuff that would change personally, just design wise. We wanted to create what you guys had, but there's a lot of thought process that goes into these. And for instance, how many fields do you need? We can create a 5-field layout, what we've done before, instead of your 4-field layout, get an extra field in there, use essentially the same amount of space, just to manipulate that a little bit. Redesign the parking facility near the dog park. I don't know if that's a hot topic or not, but dog park and Frisbee off there, to where use your funds elsewhere, create a smaller parking lot, revamp the one that's in the center there, make that a little bit larger, relocate a few items. So and really take your ponds and stuff like that to make them a great amenity space, and relocate them to where we can have a shelter and a dock that overlooks that, and just trying to think outside the box to add a little bit of a flair of that design to it, and enhance everyone's experience at the park. Even for the playground facilities themselves, I was over there earlier, and there's a couple new items, a lot of old items. Everything is kind of just put out there randomly. So you add design to that. You had to kind of relocate some equipment, maybe remove some equipment that's slightly dangerous, and just really improve that space. And you're going to see a lot more people come with their kids and enjoy this space in general. It's where it's located on the existing, or the model here. We would really work with that, and just to make everything flow a little bit better. Connectivity is always an issue, and we have a lot of walkways here, a lot of hiking trails. So with that, we would really work with the whole design. Again, start that master planning service, get input, feedback from the general public, and then kick that off right, and really see what your scope and needs are for this project. So with that, if there's any questions for me, I'd love to answer.
Questions for Brian?
Yeah, if we can go back to where we showed the initial baseball fields a little bit. More back, Kevin, where they actually show pictures of a couple more. One more, I think. Okay, the top fixture, or the top left-hand corner, would that, in flood zone area, would that be considered a fixed building in that manner, since you've got the garage doors open on that, do you know, or where it would have to be elevated?
The shelter itself would be allowable, but the restroom facility would probably have to be raised.
Okay, that's what we're talking about, like an open air pavilion where you wouldn't have a fixed wall across there, and that would be working for our purposes somewhat. But I just saw that, and I was just curious when thinking if that would maybe work in that area to get around it somewhat.
Yeah, like we were discussing, if having the, maybe you make one pond twice the size where we can have all the soil to actually utilize on site. And again, our civil engineers can do cut fill analysis pretty quickly within a couple hours and say, we need this amount of cubic foot of soil. This is what we have when we dig these ponds, and this is how much we need to raise this whole area a couple feet, or in this sense, possibly 6 to 8 feet. I know, we don't know exactly, depending on where the floodplain lies.
Just building.
Yeah, just the building itself. So, that's when we have all of us work together to really create that plan and see what's best suited for it. But there's always that research and getting with the FDA or the FDA and stuff like that. So
Piqued my interest on that 5-ball baseball, softball fields compared to the 4 cloverleaf pattern. So that's interesting.
yeah.
Have you seen, I know turf's been, a big thing in the last 10 to 15 years. Have you seen people going away from turf? I know there's studies being done that it's
Football,
not
yes.
good for them.
Baseball, no. So baseball they've been doing the entire field turf. So it used to be where there'd be a turf infield and then maybe grass outfield, but now they're doing the colored brown turf for the infield, and the whole thing is turf. So it's a matter of budget for one, and a field like that can be $300,000 to $500,000 just for turf itself per field. So that's always the first aspect. But again, maintenance wise, it's little to nothing.
And our plans to have 2 of the multi-purpose fields there would, almost have to be turf with different levels across that, if that's what we're thinking of doing.
Yeah, it's a great idea. There's also some other items where you can incorporate removable fences. So if you wanted fences like that, and they can actually take them out and just they put plugs in there for where the turf is. So it's a nice implement there where you can really utilize the space as much as possible.
Any other questions? Brian, thank you so. Mrs. Sweet.
Well, I'm looking at the baseball fields, and I don't see any place for mom and dad to sit.
So we've actually researched a few items on here. So if we had to raise this area up, and we've done it for another project, so essentially the center will be raised up, and it creates almost an amphitheater for the field. So we're going to inset bleachers within that sloped area that slopes down to the field. And then we have all the ADA access throughout there. But it creates a cool space. It's really neat. And you actually have a higher vantage point when you're up there, and you can overlook, especially if there's a second level to your concession stand. So it's really interesting.
Any other questions, comments? Brian, thanks so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much
your
for
time.
taking the
Great
time out of your
presentation.
night. Thank you, Dave. And,
Thanks for coming tonight.
For bringing me up here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, do you have, or would you want one of our copies of the topo, or do you already have a copy of the topo?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Jeff, you can send that email out to me.
Okay.
Help out.
Okay. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks again. So at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Hanna and Mr. Babcock to please come forward. And as everyone knows, Dave, you got a few days left on your term, and we've got a little something that, Rick, I'll kind of turn it over to you, a little something we'd like to give you on behalf of the village.
Dave, we just want to recognize the fact that you have been up here and you served well for us from January of 18 until December of 23. And we'd like to give you something to at least remember your stay with us for. So, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Items of communication, I have just a couple quick things. Just a reminder, the organizational meeting will be on Thursday, and that'll be the 4th of January 2024, 6:30 here at the Government Center. We'll take care of the organizational part, then we'll go right into our regular meeting. Kevin, if you can make sure that, or Rob, whoever's doing the postings now, can make sure that that's posted properly, I'd appreciate it. 6:30. Unless the council would like to have a different starting time. Okay?
The date on that again, I'm sorry.
It'd be the 4th,
Okay.
and that would be a Thursday. We are still collecting items for the adopt-a-family. If you are unable to shop and would like to write a check, then I think we mentioned this at the last meeting. Christy can cash that, do the shopping, give you the receipt for what was purchased. But I think there's a few more days left with that. So I told her I would mention that, and that was all that I had. Are there any other communications? Okay, let's go into staff reports. Kevin, I'll turn it over to you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. First item there, the pump station update. The guys have been working hard on the pump station. Getting the electric company was in there and got all the electric raised up. They worked down underneath and got some new flanges put on and some shut-off valves. And they're getting ready to connect the piping to the first pump. And then once that's done, I think Jason said that should be done here this week. They'll start on the second pump as well and get all that stuff raised up. So it's
And
going
just
well.
kind of a summary, all that stuff now is down below, and you have to get down there to a ladder and all the controls, and
Right.
that does not meet any type of safety standards now. So the idea is everything is raised up. You have a platform to walk on, and you'll have all those controls and those pumps accessible from that platform instead of being down
Right.
in the
Won't have to have a confined space.
and have a permit issued.
The
Correct.
only time we'll have to do a confined space is if we're down in there, if anything happens to, like
Were to break or leak.
leak down below. That's the only time. So, but currently, before we did this, they were always climbing down in there, and it was kind of a no-no. So,
And then
And you need
becoming
supervision to do that.
yes, correct.
Yeah, becoming a confined space, it took two people to do just the work of one because you needed the other person to stay above.
Correct.
So we're going to eventually save money on that.
Yep. So it's coming along great. So, if it all works out, it should be done here in a few weeks. So.
Good deal.
Item number 2, the BZA met on December the 4th to continue a discussion about variance that was requested for chickens, and they did vote to deny that variance. So the applicant has applied for an appeal to council, so that will be coming. She's going to she turned in her intent. She had 5 days to do that. She did that by the deadline. She has until the 19th to turn in her appeal. Then once she turns that in, she said, I called her, and she said she's going to get that hopefully yet this week, if not early next week. Then council would have 45 days to act upon that. So, and once I get that appeal, I will email everybody and get that process.
So the first meeting in January, on the regular part of the meeting, we could theoretically be ready the council could set a date for
correct
to
for
hear.
public
Okay,
hearing,
good.
for a public hearing and to come in front of council. Yeah.
Good.
Yep. In your packets, the court report. We'll go over that. For the month of November, there was 13 cases, 12 traffic and 1 criminal. Total funds received for the month was $1,023. Year to date, $18,451.92. Remitted to the state current month, $179. Year to date, $3,284. Total remitted to the village for November, $838. And year to date, $14,947.92. Total dispersed, $1,023. And year to date, $18,451.92.
I'll move that we accept the mayor's court report as presented.
Actually, can you change Laura Ewing's name to Rob Storm at the top, please? And then I'll second the motion.
Good catch. Motion by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet with that correction. And call the roll.
Mr. Babcock,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
That report has been approved. Anything else, Kevin?
Yep, I would like to thank council once again for the hard work that everybody's been doing this past year and cooperation and patience and all that good stuff. And I think overall we had another pretty good year. Got a lot of things done and everybody's working together real good in my opinion. So
Thank you, and I agree.
so-
One quick
And
thing.
go ahead.
Can you, since we're talking about court, can you just give a brief update on that last court where we had the violation that was cited for the inoperative vehicles. Can you just give a brief, so council kind of knows how that process works? Because we did have a resident that did come to council and, we told her there was a due process, but just kind of finish
Yep, the
that
gentleman
situation.
that, out on Bob White Drive, he was cited for in-op car that was parked in the yard for quite some time, and then there was an in-op truck in his driveway that he got cited for as well at the same time. And he's got some numerous other vehicles there on the property that we're going to be dealing with. I got to talk to our solicitor and see what the correct way that we can approach those.
Well, they were
But
questionable.
They were, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
those other vehicles.
Yeah, the other vehicles were. So we're still going to pursue that, but I got to figure out kind of which avenue we're legally can do. The other two, he did come into court, and since then he did move those. He said he did plead guilty. He told the magistrate, hey, I'm guilty. So he didn't put up any fight or ask any questions or anything like that. He's just.
And what was the penalty?
It was a $100 fine plus court costs. So.
Okay.
So as time goes on here, like I said, I
And,
gotta
and
talk to the
compliance
solicitor.
for 6 months?
12 months.
12 months, gotcha.
No other violations for 12 months.
Okay,
So,
thanks for that
Yep.
update. Appreciate it. And thank you for your report.
and I know Rick asked me earlier about salt. We got plenty of salt ready to make ice cream in the spring. So,
It's looking that way, isn't it?
yeah.
Any questions for our administrator?
I did have a resident ask me, and I could not remember for the life of me. It's been a few years. They asked if there's any plans to take the decorative lights, the light posts that we did several years ago. What our plan is with it going east on Main Street. I couldn't
We-
remember.
We have been talking. It's just every time we submit it for funding, it doesn't score. I mean, it's real costly now. The funding for that type of stuff is few and far between for just lighting, things like that.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out something where we can start doing it. Maybe doing that in phases too. Just so many instead of all of them. Just kind of keep
Right.
doing so many.
The answer
years.
is yes. And every year that the other ones got put up, we have attempted to fund this side of the street, and it is a difficult task because of the components that are involved are different than what they were on the first phase, and it has to do with funding and points. So this last time, and we just didn't have the points,
Yeah.
so we're going to have to kind of regroup again.
I think we'll have to regroup after the first year and maybe just do so many, and just have to do it in-house or something.
We might have to pay for it ourselves, or
I think
somehow.
just do a half a dozen at a time instead of, all 20 or whatever.
Sure.
So
Okay. Thank you.
any other questions? Chief, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council and residents. My first item, to strike the first two, the dispatch contract I was going to present to you, I found needed some administrative corrections, so I had to send that back to him. Work in progress. She did advise she'd get that to me tomorrow, so I can get it to you whenever.
Mike, what was the total on that they were going to charge us? Was it like,
Ooh, remind me. It was
71
7,000 and some change.
so it was
Yeah,
kind of within?
under
Yeah.
8. Yeah.
So it was under 8,000. So that'll be coming in January, but the number was good.
Yeah, so due in February. I think my officers were trying to keep down some of the use of making a call or a radio when we don't need to. That way it would save us $5.50 each time. So, but I wanted to. We had some back in November of 22nd. The village was hit with some of the vehicle break-ins. There's an organization of criminals going around, and they're hitting a lot of communities, and they travel around in vehicles. They'll park right in front of the driveways, and then they exit out, and they just walk about a half a block, and they're pulling on every door handle, checking for unlocked vehicles. And they're fortunately, and some of our residents had some credit cards in there, and then they go out and do their they're scheming. I just want to encourage the residents and everybody. You need to make sure that please lock your cars, lock your houses. Criminals target anybody that with an opportunity. It doesn't matter whether it's an inner city, worst city, or a great community like this. They travel far and wide, and they're going all over the region. I mean, you name it, all the surrounding counties. You've got people stealing cars every other day, and then this is the time. And then I always say during the holidays, everybody knows that people lock gifts in their cars and stuff like that. But please lock your vehicles, and please call dispatch if you see anything suspicious. And if anybody has anything on their cameras or anything, or they think it might help, give our office a call, relay that information. I will tell you that we were able to get some evidence. We do have a person of interest. We believe we're pretty confident it was the person that was here in this area, which they are not from here. But I would say that was luck on our part, I hope, and a lot of agencies working together. We still haven't had any official charges go out on them yet, but I see that happening soon. But as a result of that one night, we had a lot of victims, and it keeps us busy. So please lock your stuff up, and then again, call us.
You guys have been doing
Evening too, weren't they? The evenings, overnight as well as the evenings?
From what I've seen from just talking to different agencies and seeing where they've occurred here and everywhere, it's daylight to 3 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, people were just going out, and if it's not bolted down, they're going to take it.
And I know you guys have been working hard, and I know there would be several residents that would be very pleased to see some charges filed on that. So it sounds like you're close. So we appreciate the work on that.
Yeah, we are. It takes a while to get some of the evidence collected.
And you and I have talked about this. Here's the problem. We live in Enon. Yep. We feel comfortable. We feel safe. And then somebody from the outside comes in, and that's when stuff like this happens. But we have that comfort living in our community. And sometimes we get just a little lax.
Yeah, I mean, that type of crime is up significantly across the United States. So, and it's just going to be like that. But yes.
Sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Has there been any reports of like packages being taken off of porches or anything like that?
No, I haven't got any reports like that, thankfully. But
Yeah.
that is something else.
Right.
They do. And if you a lot of people are on the social media websites, you see these offenders, they walk up, they know that you have a Ring doorbell camera or a mild security camera. They're not worried about that. They're covering their faces, they're and such. Luckily in our case, and not to give them any fun, but there was some details of how they were that helped us identify them a little bit, and the communication between agencies. It wasn't just us; it was multi-agency. But no, we haven't had any package theft, but that will be coming up.
Yeah. I'd say like the next couple of weeks, probably a good idea to be cruising around the neighborhoods a little bit more.
Yeah, well, and I will tell you, everybody knows when any police or law enforcement are coming down the street, because we have a very distinct look to us. So if the criminals are the same way, they'll stand and watch us drive by. So again, I appreciate the outreach from the community, helping us get that, reporting it real quick, and then of course also the calls of saying what some leads and stuff. But more importantly, it doesn't matter where you're at, they're all over, and they hit in spots. I know that I just recently spoke to an officer, not to beat it to death, but I just spoke to one of my friends. They had a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old that stole a car up just the next county over, and then they were out taking photos of themselves on a country road and posting online. They ended up finding a county away. It's down in Montgomery County in a field, and it's sad that a 10-year-old would steal a car. It's sad that anybody would steal a car, but more importantly, we have some very young offenders out here doing this. So unfortunately, so yeah. So it's not always your middle-aged teen or young adult. It's anybody. But at any rate, I'll leave that at that. But I think we're good. I've had a good year. WHIO did an interview with me, I believe, last week before. our police academies are very low in attendance. I know that they've had to cancel some academies at Greene County, Clark State, Edison. That's our local police academies that are around here. And I say cancel academies because the state requires that they have at least 10 in a seat, 10 students, and they haven't been able to meet those numbers. Some of their night academies and such, and then even the academies that are able to push through, I think we're sitting at 13. The two different academies only have 13 in attendance. I'm not sure about a couple of the others. And then I know Dayton, who they have their own academy. They had a decent amount, what I would consider a decent amount, but they only graduated a fourth of that. It's not a lot of interest right now in the law enforcement field, and I encourage anybody that wants to get in a very rewarding job, something that's meaningful and is different every day, that reach out to us, no matter what your age is, and I'll try to help you get down the path. And then I will say that after that next date, and it wasn't my best interview in my opinion, but I did have a few people of qualified applicants, I'll say that, reach out. And we actually got an application about 3 days after that, maybe 4. So I'm happy that it worked, but we have to continue to get people to serve our community and serve in emergency fields all over. I know fire and EMS is well, jobs all over, but
Agreed.
I do thank those that have reached out. And if anybody else is interested, please call me, get a hold of me, email me. I'll help them out as much as I can. That's
Thanks,
all
Chief.
I have.
Questions for our chief?
Mike, what was the cost on the dispatching last year? Did it go up or stay about the same, or do you recall?
I believe it was about the same.
It seems real-
within a couple hundred of each, yeah.
I'd say within 1,000. It seemed to me like it was, what, about 8?
Yeah, I was trying to remember, and I couldn't. Yeah,
So
couldn't
it's
be.
very close.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
good deal.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Under committee reports, Mr. Bear, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You are welcome.
On November 30th, there was a joint meeting with the township and the village to discuss the community park project, and some questions were raised about opening an account or a fund to store the monies donated or collected for the park project. We sought advice from our legal expert, Mr. Kavanaugh, on that, and Mr. Babcock reached out to the Attorney General's office as well. That information was also shared with Mr. Kavanaugh on December 4th. And at this time, he's not given us an opinion on that yet. So based on that information, I would say if Mr. Hanna and Mr. Avery are in agreement, I would recommend that we table that topic until we get that legal advice back.
And we should have that by the first meeting in January. So, yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay.
The fencing at the Enon Park should be done or be started here about any day. There was a question about the being able to get the availability of the white PVC, but I think he was going to go ahead and try to start the chain link back there. So that should be upcoming very shortly. So
Good deal.
Ben, I know we discussed in that joint meeting about requesting if anybody would be interested in, being on whatever committee, however we decide to do that, just expressing interest. Do we want to do that? Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and reach out and start taking interest
No,
in.
I think it'd be a good idea to put that out on Facebook. And say that we're going to have a joint committee on that, or at least a community involvement with members of the sports leagues as well.
Right. If we could put that on our Facebook or website.
And
Letters
if I
of interest.
remember right, isn't it, we want every sports organization to have
Right.
a representative,
Right.
and then we'll ask for other people from the community.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be from the village, but from the township, right?
Yeah, it
Is
could
it-
be
okay.
either.
just
Yeah.
general
Okay.
letters of interest.
Anything else? Well, we have, let's see, nothing else on our agenda, no executive session, comments from our public. Comments from the public. Mr. Wozak.
Two items. Number one, being the end of the fiscal year or the calendar year, I'd like to personally thank all of you for serving. the thought struck me when we were talking about the wages that you get for the year for doing what you do. You could be getting minimum pay wage jobs and probably get a raise, with the exception of the overpriced mayor.
I knew that was coming. Thanks, Chuck.
So, on behalf of at least myself and my wife, and I'm sure the rest of the community, I want to thank each and every one of you for serving. Irrespective of whether you are on council and were elected, whether you were hired for a position, I can't think of finer people to work with than what we've got here in the village of Enon. Heartfelt. Number two, I don't know how to express how proud and happy I am to see the completion of the Enon Xenia project. The project manager, Mr. Burr, on down, and I mean, you know, those people here present have done a marvelous job. I was just looking at my phone, and in January, walking the dog, I'd taken pictures of the pipes, the 6 foot pipes down on Stein Road down that area. And in October, I took a picture of the sign with project manager's name, Barrett Paving. And so all of that was done in the space of roughly 9 months. I mean, there was work done before that. I don't know how we can express our thanks from the top on down, but again, on my behalf, and I'm sure on the behalf of the village of Enon, everyone should be proud for the wonderful job that they did in making that a successful project. All the way from the traffic light on down, it's marvelous. And the drainage works, because we just had a gully washer here the other night, and ponds didn't even look like they were raised much. So again, my thanks for a wonderful year. I look forward to working with y'all next year from backbencher. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, and we need that second.
I will second.
And we have the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
7:22.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you have a great holiday.